Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max.
Welcome, everyone. We are the Geek Patrol, and our microphones don't have a stun setting. Today we're joining you from the parking lot of the Agricenter, where we were unceremoniously kicked out from the home show of the Mid-South after Brandon Olmsted threw 5 gallons of Alka-Seltzer into a hot tub display. Well, you're a man of science, and it worked.
I wanted to know what would happen, and it made super bubbles.
It's effervescent.
Hey, it's the busiest place in the. I mean, it drew a whole crowd.
They've got to be happy that I did it before the big crowd came in. It was just a bunch of vendors and us.
Well, you know.
I mean, if I had done it when the crowds were here, that could have been a panic.
If you weren't going to do it, somebody was. So.
Well, Jay Hill gave me a bunch of money to do it.
So.
Well, that'll do it.
So we'll suffer through.
I can buy a roof.
Exactly. Anyway, welcome to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmsted and Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max back at the studio, and that's because we are broadcasting live from the home show of the Mid-South. It's the third day. It's been a pretty cool weekend. It's always fun being over here. It's you know, if you want to do home improvements and if you want to also learn about the latest technology, there's a little science here that we're seeing, Allan. It's a great place
cool
to do
stuff.
it. And we would love for you to come by and get some swag. I will say, if I'm being honest, that the Tool Talk Radio swag outweighs the Geek Tank swag.
Well,
we burn through that stuff fast when we go to conventions. So.
Right. And so,
we need to restock.
But I will say that I have to give Allan all sorts of props because he apparently bought stock in a magnet company.
Yeah.
We got all the magnets now.
Yeah.
Come, cover your refrigerator with our stuff.
Yeah, we're ready to hold your Post-it notes.
Well, hey, among other things, we are, and I promise we're not being biased. We're, because it's made by a guy that's a friend of ours. We are all really excited about this Late Night with the Devil coming out. A new promotion came out, and you said there's a release date, right?
Yeah, the release date now is March 22nd.
Okay.
Which those of you here in Memphis will know that that's the perfect day for that because it also kicks off a great weekend with some guests we'll have in the studio next week.
Right. Yeah.
And then if you're not a big fan of going to the theater, which I know a lot of us have discussed how horrible it is for your theater experience these days, it will also be on Shudder on April 19th.
Okay.
Nice.
This seems like one of these movies, though, where you, if you haven't seen the trailer, you should go watch it, folks. It looks cool. It looks like they really captured the feel of late night television in the 1970s, where it was live. Right, there wasn't even a delay.
Yeah. No.
Oh, no.
And
it was very
ask Johnny
live.
Carson about how that went sometimes
Yeah.
with some of his guests. And so, but the premise is super interesting, and it looks like it was made then, and I really hope it's successful.
I'm just never going to get over the fascination that I have with the fascination you're showing for a horror movie.
But see, okay, it's not so much the horror, because it just seems like an interesting premise, and it looks like, it's different. At this point in cinema history, I just want something unique and different.
Right,
And it's a little more old school. This looks like it's a kind of a going back, like we're not going to do the big CGI stuff.
Well, I mean, we've discussed off air, and we'll discuss it a little more later in the show. It might be the end of the $200 million blockbusters because those don't seem to be profiting for anybody anymore.
Madam Web. Okay. Did it cost $200 million to make that? Because that's another thing we were going to
I don't know exactly
on.
what the budget on Madam Web was.
Okay.
But between Madam
Argyle
Web,
was $200 million.
Argyle, the latest Indiana Jones movie, the Marvels, nobody's hitting the mark. And I think the last big movie we had was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Right.
Yeah.
That wasn't $200 million, though.
No, it was much bigger.
Yeah, I was going. That one was.
Plus their advertising budget.
Yeah,
Right.
that was a Hail
And
Mary. Yeah.
I think that. I mean, I don't want to cast any predictions of Doom on the future, but Doom 2 may be the last huge blockbuster we see make any kind of money.
It seems poised to be a big
And
success.
I will almost guarantee you 90% of the people going to see Doom 2 now aren't going for the movie. They're going for that really controversial popcorn bucket. Which if you haven't seen it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've seen the. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
so.
I kind of want one.
I mean, it looks like it'd be hard to. You can't run it through the dishwasher. It looks like
no, you can't run it through the dishwasher.
It's definitely for display only. Hey, later in the show too, we are, we like to. We promised that this year we're going to lean a little bit heavier into music, and this sort of overlaps. We just sort of posed a question of, okay, if you're a famous musician, it is very easy to transition into becoming an actor and be taken serious and maybe thrive. People like David Bowie have done it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work in reverse. If you're a really successful actor and you want to become a musician, you might have all the talent in the world, but it really just somehow it doesn't work.
And your band may play really well in a small club somewhere in California, but other than that, not a whole lot of crossover on the other direction.
Yeah.
But we'll discuss. Yeah.
But I do want to circle back to Late Night with the Devil. So this, I don't know, Brandon. I really are. Dave Dasmalchin looks like he's having a lot of fun with this. He really.
Well, first, the first thing we have to talk about is the fact that knowing David and getting a chance to hang out with him and actually have real human conversations.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you don't get a chance during those during conventions, but you find out about how much he's into, and he's into like all the that low budget horror vibe type the suspense thing. So to see this coming from him, he's having a good time while he's making it.
Right.
And I want to see it be successful.
Yeah, no, but he's given us something different. Like, I mean, I if I'm being fair, I don't universally love every movie he's in, or sometimes I have problems with like The Dark Knight. It wasn't my favorite Batman movie, but this
I fell asleep during Voyage of the Demeter.
Right. So this one though is something that it just seems like it's in his wheelhouse, and the whole team seems like they're on the same page.
Oh, yeah.
It just looks cool. And that's the kind of stuff I hope we start getting. I'm really tired of franchises. I'm tired of, like you said, the $200 million blockbuster now they're calling them.
Cookie cutter.
Right.
I have to stick to the algorithm, and the public's tired of the algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to AI, baby.
So, yeah.
We can't think of anything new. All we can do is rip off what's been done.
You talking about AI will come into a discussion with the Madam Web conversation later.
Yeah, because that's it's if you want cringeworthy and painful, just watch some of the press, conversations with that. I mean, Dakota Johnson looks like she just wants to go home. So, anyway, don't you go home. Get over here and come see us over at the home show of the Mid-South at the Agricenter. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. Someone should throw their microphones into the fires of Mount Doom. The Geek Patrol is back.
I'd do it. I mean,
you don't drop the mic. Those things are expensive.
We almost got our microphones thrown into the hot tub too.
Yeah, well,
hey, if
people were mad.
If it means you get to fly home on one of those giant eagles, it's worth the trip, man. So
no, you don't fly home on it. You fly home in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll discuss it off the air. Anyway, welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmsted and Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max back at the studio, and that's because if you can hear that ambiance, that rumble, we're here broadcasting from the home show of the Mid-South. It's day 3, and it's been a lot of fun this weekend. Allan is burning through a lot of the swag that he's been giving out.
Yes, we are.
Dark Oak Media and everything. We've got very few Geek Tank swag left. But,
I
that's
think
what
we're down
happens.
to our last magnet.
But anyway, it's still fun. Come by and say hello and check everything out. Well, Brandon, on Valentine's Day, a highly anticipated Marvel movie came out, probably destined to reset the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. The massively successful Madam Web, right?
Oh, yeah.
Starring Dakota Johnson.
So,
and,
let me just preface this with, I will almost guarantee you everybody involved in this movie was like, hey, you wanna read for this Marvel project? And they're like, oh, I'd love to be a part of the MCU. They go, they sign the contract, they go, why does this say Sony?
Right. Strike one. So
that was strike one. Strike two, Dakota Johnson has already said that the script that they shot with had drastic changes compared to the script that she read when she was signing up for it.
Really?
Right. Rumor is they pulled out every reference you could possibly have to Spider-Man.
Is that a legal thing? I mean,
no.
Because I wonder.
No, it's
Madam
more
Web.
along the lines of Sony wants their Spider-Man universe to be able to stand without a Spider-Man.
Right.
And
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And while there's been Venom is, I'm sorry, people. I know that it made money. Venom is not a good movie. Venom
now, you
2,
said you liked Venom.
I do. That does not mean it's a good movie.
Oh.
That's very true. It's entertaining in a lot of things.
That's true.
However,
Joe, let me say two things. Mega Shark.
Yeah, good point.
And Rubber.
Fun movie,
Fun
but
movies,
terrible.
but terribly made.
Okay, that's a good point.
Madam Web could only have been made worse if, in the middle of it, someone came out and said, oh, yeah, AI wrote all of this right in the middle of it. Because there's no human emotion in this thing at all.
Brandon, I seem to remember a couple weeks ago, we were talking about straying from the source material. Well,
right.
One of the writers, I was watching an interview, this writer guy who looks like he's about 25 years old goes, well, Madam Web has no backstory in the comics, so it's a blank slate. We can do whatever we want. And you find out,
That's not
she
true.
has a pretty established backstory.
Oh, yeah.
She's an old lady. She's blind. Yep. She's got precognition. She's got all this, and they made Dakota Johnson, which is 30 years old, or they changed everything.
They've started off. First of all, the movie takes place in 2003.
Right.
She is a paramedic. She hates people.
Oh, great!
And,
good career choice.
Yeah, because that's a great career choice for someone who hates people.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the only person who shows any kind of real personality in this movie is Sydney Sweeney as Julia Carpenter, who is one of the Spider Women.
Right.
And
who you see in costume for less than a minute.
Oh, yeah. The only time you see him in costume is when Ezekiel is having a night terror, basically, of when these three come to murder him.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are they murdering him? I mean, aren't they supposed to be heroes? I don't get it.
By the way, we're doing spoilers, but I don't think anybody cares.
I don't think anybody who wanted to see the movie saw the movie.
Yeah.
And went.
If you were one of the 30 people that saw the movie.
And walked out about 15 minutes into it. They say that Adam Scott does really good as Uncle Ben.
Oh, yeah. He's a younger Uncle Ben.
I'm so tired of Uncle Ben.
Well,
I know.
Get over it.
I know.
Uncle Ben is the most important person in Marvel comic history, and it's true. It just is.
It is. But
Adam Scott does really well. But they don't
cool
even.
Anyway, though.
They don't even let him refer to the girl he's dating as May. We don't know.
There's probably some legal reason he can't mention.
No. The reason is that Sony wants these things to stand on their own, so they're pulling every Spider-Man reference out of them because they don't have their own Spider-Man. Their Spider-Man movies have to share in the MCU continuity.
I don't get why this movie was made. I mean, really, nobody involved looks like they want to even be there.
Because Sony wants all your money.
Okay.
And they can't get it from the PlayStation because it costs too much to make.
But we got the Kraven the Hunter. That looks fun. That looks like a bad movie that's going to be fun.
And right now, I'm pretty much guaranteeing that Kraven is going to be on the same level as Madam Web. And
I don't know.
Anything else they plan to do it, Venom 3 is going to be just as bad. Because they're getting... I honestly think that, when they came back from the strike, Sony was like, we can do this without writers.
I guess, and Brandon, we should say, people that wonder why we're harsh on Sony, although these days I'm universally harsh, if it's Disney or Sony or whatever, but Sony has a bad track record. They made the first Spider-Man movie, which is really good. They made some good ones, but they made some stinkers.
The first two Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans are awesome. The first Andrew Garfield Spider-Man is awesome. The second one's not as good, but that's because they really went bad with their villains.
Yeah.
And, but the Tom Holland movies, which have been made in conjunction with Marvel, have been enjoyable. That being said, Sony also gave us Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which became more of a movement than it was a movie. They were too busy wanting to Paul Feig wanted to push an agenda too much. So we lost the movie, even though we had talented actresses in it. I don't even want to talk about what they did with Chris Hemsworth.
Right.
Oh, come on.
Oh, no. We're not going to talk about Kevin. No.
Well.
But Sony's been very hit or miss. Yes, Venom is fun, and I will watch Venom over and over again. I'm not going to defend it as a good movie, though.
No. You'll watch it, and it's fun. There are moments that,
all right. There is a huge delineation between popcorn movie, enjoyable movie, blockbuster movie. There are huge lines there. You can have a very successful movie that's not very good.
Look, if I'm going to look at the Fox X-Men movies and say they're a masterpiece compared to the Sony Spider-Verse, you know they're bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not going to argue with you.
yeah, but it may usher in this failure may actually usher in a better era of superhero movies, and we'll probably touch on that when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. Max, the producer, just pushed the red button. The Geek Patrol is back.
Yeah, did you forget we're not there, Max? That red button can do us no harm. We're on location.
I have a
I
portable
just
red
thought
button.
that didn't record.
Oh, okay.
I was like, well,
All right. Well, we'll see what happens then, you guys. Live radio.
No, I have an
And we'll
operative waiting for you with the red button.
Okay. All right, whatever. We're really driving this gag into the ground. And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmstead and Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max back at the studio, who may have detonated something. He may not have. If you're just tuning in, we were talking about Madam Web, which is really just, universally being bombed. Dakota Johnson said she's not even watching it because for her own emotional
self-care.
Self-care.
Well, she doesn't watch any of her movies because of self-care. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
I don't want to rip on anybody, but would she even be in the business if her dad wasn't famous? I don't know. No, I'm not going to dig on her. I don't know enough about her work, so whatever.
Well, here's the thing: when she's actually in a movie that she gives a damn about, she's a good actress.
So maybe that's what it is. But what we're hoping is maybe sometimes failure can spark something better. We're hoping that whatever's coming next is going to learn lessons from this. But
this movie is going to become one of those movies that everybody watches at home with their friends just so they can bag on it.
So you can pick it apart.
Right.
Yeah. But, Brandon, what's telling about this is the day of this movie, literally, they weren't, to sort of mitigate the disaster, Marvel made an announcement that there's a new cast for the upcoming Fantastic Four movie.
They released the cast for the new Fantastic Four movie.
So there's an X-Men project going
right.
on,
Well, they, of course, they're working on a new Fantastic Four movie, and it takes place in the 60s.
Okay.
It's going to be very contemporary on that. Herbie the robot from the old cartoon is going to be in it. We don't know who's going to voice Herbie yet, but the main cast, we got Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm.
right.
She played Deckard Shaw's sister Hattie in Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw. She was in Napoleon. That's the most recent one she was in. She's a really good actress. I'm hoping that this means that we're going to see a little bit of
Some acting?
We're going to see some acting. On top of that, we also got Pedro Pascal, everyone's favorite, sci-fi dad.
Yeah.
I don't see him as Reed Richards, man. I don't know.
Oh, he's got the
just
dad
don't see
thing.
him.
He's got the dad thing.
Well, here's the thing about Reed Richards. All right, we've seen him as the Mandalorian taking care of his little youngling with Grogu. We saw him in The Last of Us taking care of his surrogate daughter. Really good dad. How's he going to be as Reed Richards? We already know Reed Richards is a horrible father.
Yes.
Frankly,
he's not a great husband either.
No,
right?
no, he's really
sort
not.
of like abandons.
He's that guy who puts himself into his work and ends up getting everybody kind of screwed over in the beginning.
Yeah. Yep.
But he is Mr. Fantastic. We've got Eben Moss-Backrack, who is playing Ben Grimm. The Thing, which means, of course, we're only going to see him for a little bit before
the most interesting character of the Fantastic Four.
Probably one of the most interesting characters in Marvel in general.
If you do it right.
Right.
Yeah.
And, he was Arvel Skeen in Andor.
Yeah.
He's Richie in The Bear.
Yeah.
A lot of big actors.
He's got a good thing. And then we've got Joseph Quinn, who played, he's playing Johnny Storm. He played Eddie Munson in the latest season of Stranger Things, the D&D
that
degenerate that everybody fell in love with but Joe.
Well,
everybody
I don't like
loves
that show anymore, so I'm not a target audience. But I did like that. What I like about that guy is I heard he's very nice with the fans.
Oh,
they say he's really cool and he always goes out of his way. So.
Yeah, he just seems like a genuinely good dude.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his star went way up before I could get him into MCFC.
The trick with the Fantastic Four, it seems to me, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, we know the law, if you don't do something once every 10 years, you sort of get into trouble with your copyright. So,
Well, it's
I mean,
true,
we get
but-
almost like an obligatory Fantastic Four movie, which doesn't mean it's going to be any good.
I was going to say,
I mean,
if it wasn't for the fact that this movie is being produced by the people who own Marvel Comics,
Right.
This is coming from Marvel Studios. It's a Disney project. They don't have to worry about losing the licensing.
see, I think doing it in the
Yeah.
60s may be the recipe for finally making a good one because
Right.
we haven't had that, and that's what they were all about.
Yeah,
the,
they were
the
they were the
1960s,
first family
the
of
space
comics.
age, right?
You know, the comics debuted 1960.
It was 61, so I
61?
mean that set off the whole Marvel revolution, and I mean that right
yeah,
there.
Stan was trying to get fired.
That's true.
Although you find out Jack Kirby basically did everything.
Well,
Yeah, but
whatever.
Stan was trying to get fired.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
But then-
that's why he went out on a
for
limb
those of-
for a storyline.
yeah.
For those of us who were in our teen years and younger in the 90s, changing gears, we had the animated X-Men series on Fox, which is
Everybody knows
to
that.
this day is still one of the most popular animated superhero cartoons of all time. And we are picking up with X-Men 97, Disney Plus 10-episode cartoon. They dropped the trailer on Madam Web Day, and it picks up directly where the final episode left off.
I hope they don't do it because what the trigger word for me was they said we're making an X-Men movie for a modern audience. Usually what that means is
Well,
it's not going to be.
It's now
good.
terrible.
Well, because they're going to abandon what made it great, just like we're going to make a He-Man for a modern audience. Well,
except for the
how
fact
about
that
just classic storytelling?
except for the
devices,
fact that other than a few man children on the internet whining about the fact that we were hearing more about Tila than we were Adam, He-Man's dead for the first 5.5 episodes of the new series, and then he comes back. And then
Spoiler.
if you haven't watched it yet, you're not watching.
I don't really care about it.
And then in the latest section,
I'm
it's
not a-
all about He-Man, taking the mantle of king
Okay.
because his father passes away.
All right.
In the first episode, again, it's a spoiler, but if you hadn't watched it already, you wouldn't.
So I guess we'll just see. I
But
kind of
based
am
on the-
intrigued by the Fantastic
Based on the
Four, but-
trailer from the X-Men,
Yeah.
it is very much still in the vein of the original.
Okay. Well, and can you capture that same zeitgeist though? Because at that point, Saturday morning cartoons actually still exist.
Well, here's the thing. They've already released the toys, and they've sold out multiple times.
Okay. Well, the
So,
X-Men we
the
know was
nostalgia's
the
there.
bomb back in those days. That's what you grew up with, right? That was.
Well, I mean, I was
that was a little after
graduating
my.
from high school, but I mean, my sisters watched it, and I was an X-Men fan, so I watched it. I'll still watch it to this day.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to keep an eye on that, and then when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio, we're going to pose a question. Can you go to be? We're going to talk about music.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. Even a pair of vibranium diapers couldn't hold back the produced on this show. The Geek
not
Patrol
only-
is back.
Not only that, but disposing of vibranium diapers has now been considered an ecological hazard.
All
so-
you have to do is hit them with a tuning fork. It evaporates whatever's in them. You people need to learn what vibranium can do.
Yeah.
Okay, Brandon, I don't know how you learn these things, but that's...
Hey, it's way too much comic knowledge for way too many years.
That's a pretty... Okay, drop the mic on that. And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmsted and Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max back at the studio. If you hear that little rumbling back there, it is not a vibranium diaper. It's the ambiance, the crowd noise.
It might be similar to a vibranium diaper.
Because we're broadcasting today from the home show of the Mid-South, which, let's be honest, this is more of a Tool Talk venue, but we cross the streams. We're not afraid to do it.
Hey, there is a guy here selling freeze-dried candy.
Yep.
Anytime you freeze-dry anything, science is involved, and
Yep.
we love science.
Yes, exactly. So it's a lot of fun. If you want to come by, come say hello to us, and you get a lot of free swag. It's pretty
Yep,
great.
got free stuff.
I know we've got a question, and we need to get to it before the end of the show.
Yeah.
But I will say that there's actually a lot of science here.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
You know,
technology, man. Yeah.
From the freeze-dried candy to the aromatherapy, stuffies for your toddlers.
Right.
There is a lot of science here,
No,
both
it's-
hard science and soft sciences.
It's
So, I mean-
affordable too. It's a good day to be here. so
absolutely.
check it out.
Well, I would have told them that yesterday was probably the right day to be here.
Cold.
because it was cold outside
Yeah.
and you needed to be inside.
Right.
But
get over here and say hello and get your free stuff. Hey, you guys, before the break, we posed a question, and really I was racking my brain trying to think if anybody has broken this rule. But as a rule, it seems to me that if you are a successful musician, we're calling them successful,
Right.
and you say, you know what, I want to get into acting. If you're talented, you can do it, and you'll probably be even more successful. David Bowie comes to mind, people like that. Even Sting wasn't a great actor, but it doesn't work in the reverse. I don't know any actors that say, like, I want to become a serious musician and get taken seriously. Johnny Depp, he's actually a pretty good guitar player. There's a lot of people, and why is that, I suppose, is the question for the panel. So,
Well, I'm going to go
Alan's already
back to
got
the
an answer.
producer of 9 to 5. Why they booked Dolly Parton. They went to the concert, and he was like, she tells the same jokes every concert. That's acting.
Yeah.
She's got the same shtick. So when you're performing, when you're a performer up on stage, you get a routine. You get a how we do this. AC/DC, the knee slide. You got David Lee Roth with the big jump. You got all, these are all part of the acting shtick of being on stage.
Right.
And now when you take somebody, you take some people that are truly exceptional, David Bowie, Lady Gaga, she's delivered. Whether it was American Horror or big budget movie, she did not disappoint.
But based on that, that's what I'm saying. It's. I mean, we could give many examples of that. But what the question is, why could somebody who's actually a performer in acting why does it not translate? Is it more just public relations or something? Because
when you've got somebody who's well known for their acting and they try to get into music,
right?
And off air, Ditch said something about how it feels forced. It feels like a gimmick. It doesn't really feel like anything other than, hey, look, I can do this too.
We're used to them playing a role, and this is just another role.
It's just another role.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, the other problem is a lot of times they have what I like to call chef-itis, because they're not a starving musician trying something new. They're doing their favorite type of music that they really want to play, and that is not necessarily mass appeal music.
Max wants to chime in. Go
I
ahead,
kind of
Max.
want to interject here. I kind of want to throw a little bit of an example into the ring that's kind of odd. How about Weird Al Yankovic?
Now, what did he start as, though?
He's always been an
He's not-
avant-garde musician, and so he's not necessarily mainstream, but at the same time, he's actually got really good acting chops.
He's a performance artist. He
All right.
started
Right.
with making
But
video.
again, he didn't start as an actor that moved
Right.
into
Yeah.
music. He was a musician who on the Dr. Demento show who got booked into Johnny Dangerously
Yeah.
to begin with to create the theme song for the movie, but then he ends up in the bar scene.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody that's
The closest thing I can think of is, and I know that a lot of the listeners don't like him, but Jared Leto and 30 Seconds to Mars.
because they pack the arenas.
They pack
right?
the arenas. They platinum albums, and it's multiple platinum albums, and his music is taken seriously. But again, at the same time, it wasn't marketed as Jared Leto and 30 Seconds to Mars. It was marketed as 30 Seconds to Mars, and you didn't even realize it was him unless you read the liner notes.
Yeah.
Until that first video came out.
Go ahead, Max.
Another
You said-
thing I'm thinking of, too, that kind of blurs the lines is how about people who weren't necessarily musicians, but they starred in things that were like musical style, like, for example, Zac Efron.
Oh, yeah, because he's in musicals and he's an actor. So
Right,
yeah.
but
he
again-
might be a guy that could get away with it, actually.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
right now he could also probably be one of those guys who crossed over, did the reverse crossover and went into actual wrestling.
Yeah.
Because of the training he did for the Iron Claw.
I think Zac Efron could
No.
be an except if he was doing something where he was the front man of a band. He might get away with it. Gary Sinise kind of qualifies, but even still, he does that for charity, and
Yeah.
so that's why he's selling out arenas. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
he's doing all that for Wounded Warrior.
Right,
and
he's a
everything.
great dude. So-
Well, I think a lot of it also has to do with how are you promoting the music.
right.
Because
right.
as Brandon said, you didn't know he was on stage until they walked out. And you
Right.
went, Oh wait, is that
It's
is that the Joker up there?
Well,
You know,
Music
no.
coming
It was
first.
it was Jared Leto.
It
But
was Jordan Catalano from My So-Called Life.
Wait, Jack Black. He's one of the few. Is Tenacious D successful enough? where you could say?
Tenacious D was a reputable band before he was a certified bona fide star.
All right. Well, the question's
He
out
kind
there.
of did it all at once.
It's out there to our listeners. So
yeah,
let's-
but Tenacious D is unto itself its own kind of spoof and act.
Okay, we're out of time, you guys. We'll continue this discussion. So until next week, we are the Geek Patrol, and I am Joe Thorderson.
I'm Allan Gilbreth.
And I'm Brandon Olmsted, reminding you to check in next week when we have our guest from Mid-South Con.